Here at the Independence Reformed Bible Church, we do allow for questions following the sermon. Who has the first question this morning? Yeah, Jim.
The whole thing with the Jews and the Romans with relation to the Christians and how they interact and everything is interesting to me. And I've never really been able to resolve in my mind the fact that it seems like we give disproportionate blame to Pontius Pilate in the crucifixion of Christ. Not that he wasn't guilty, he was a cheap politician and all that. But
and a real bad person.
Yeah. But it seems to me as though when you read it, if he had his way, they would not have crucified Christ. He was trying to talk the Jews out of it.
Yep.
And it just seems to me that we give maybe a disproportionate amount of the blame to Pilate.
Yeah. That whole thing is so interesting because Pilate underestimates his own authority. I think he really thinks he can go out there and say, I find no fault in him, and then we're kind of done, everybody go home. If it would have been up to just, it's so clear, if it would have been up to just Pilate, Christ would never be crucified. If it would have been up to just him, he wasn't the guy that did it. He didn't even notice him. He didn't care. Found out some things. He sends him over to Herod. You take care of him, sends him back, whatever. But the Jewish people were not going to quit until they had killed him. That's just the fact. And it's very clear, Pilate says, when he saw that a tumult was rising. When he saw that, it's very clear that, okay, go ahead and kill him. And all he was is a politician, and they're always trying to put themselves in a win-win situation. Okay, I want to keep him alive. Okay, that's not going to get me any good. I'll kill him, and then that'll get me as much good as any. But I think the thing that he did, I'm always intrigued with this, he was no different from the rest of us. We always have to have the last word on stuff, especially the more powerful we are, the more we have to show people that we have that kind of power. And I think he did that. I think that was behind his, this is Jesus, the King of the Jews, little thing he put on the cross, right? That's his way of right at the end, this is your king. This is what I think of you people. Okay, I killed him. How you like your king? And they were all offended by it. They said, well, they wanted to compromise it. Well, put him aside and says, he said he was the king of the Jews, right? I was like, no, I've already read this. It's done. Get out of here. I don't want to deal with you people anymore. I mean, he was a bad guy, but there's no question that Pilate alone would never have killed Christ. He didn't care enough about it. But when he saw a tumult was rising, all right, okay, I'll do it. Yes?
To speak to Jim's point, when we did the study on the creeds, the thing that was pointed out over and over, Jim, is that Pontius Pilate was put into those creeds to emphasize the historicity of the event. The fact that it happened, not to be over-spiritualized, that this happened at this time, at this place, and this guy was part of it. You can look it up. Put your finger on it. You can go look this up. And that was as much. So I think that because it's in all the creeds, we tend to think of Pilate a bit more than we ought to.
I can give you a second step. It is a little weird to read the creeds. So how does Pilate get into our creed? By name. Maybe more on that in a second if we have time. When we visited Caesarea, found out some things about Pilate when we were in Israel. Go ahead.
Well, and to that, when you look at our modern culture, we want to be able to say, well, look, Jesus was a revolutionary. That's why he was killed, because Pilate he was just so revolutionary.
Yeah.
He just wasn't the norm of the day.
Yeah.
And I think it's quite the biblical narrative is quite the opposite. The Romans could have cared less.
Yeah.
They're like, whatever. This Jesus dude is weird.
Yeah.
He helps people that we think nobody should help, but whatever. People want to follow him. They don't care.
Yeah.
So again, it's molded by our perception too of we want to be able to say, well, look, it's all about Jesus, the revolutionary. It's just so revolutionary to love people, and if we do that, well then no wonder the government's going to hate us because we just love people, and that's revolutionary, and that's being like Jesus.
Yeah.
As opposed to the reality, you have a covenant people that despise God and His Messiah and break covenant with God, and then God judges them. That's the only alternative you're left with. So we'd rather just say, oh, if we just love people, of course the world's going to hate us because we're being revolutionaries like Jesus.
Yeah. Yeah, he wasn't, I'm not going to point this out recently to someone. I mean, we say Jesus was killed, why? Well, and I had to say to them that he did love people. He loved them by proclaiming who he really was, and that's their sovereign. And you know what? If Jesus wants to stop and help me change my tire because I have a flat tire by the side of the road, I'm okay with that. But if he wants to tell me he's King and Lord and I must bow to him, no, that's not love now. That's something different. But what good is he doing if he only helps me change my tire? That's not helping me very much. I probably could have done it myself anyway. Yes?
To that point about him being King and Lord, we saw that very, very starkly this week where we went to Lie Missing to proclaim Christ as Lord. And what you said was true. People who were traditional enemies, pro-choice parents and pro-life parents, joined forces to literally cover up the gospel so that we couldn't proclaim Christ as Lord to their students. And that was what they took issue with. They would come to us and say, don't make this about religion. How dare you tell my child that Christ is king or that they should believe this or worship this? How dare you make this about that? They were more offended by the proclamation of Christ as king than they were by the graphic photos. Ultimately, it always boiled down to that. And they were traditional enemies who did,
Yeah.
join forces. To
That's a
try and
common cause going on here.
Right, and
Yeah.
the common cause is shut these people up. We do not want to hear that proclaimed. And I mean, even those who were saying that they were Christian and that they were pro-life were saying, shh, don't talk about that. People won't become pro-life if you talk about that.
Yeah. 40 years of failure. Or more.
Denying Christ, 40
Yeah.
years of denying Christ so
Right.
that we can accomplish this goal or that goal.
Yeah. Horrible. And my friend, I hope you see, this is one of the reasons why we just kind of emphasize this again and again, because the matrix out there, the rubric, the pattern is that the whole world isn't getting saved because we aren't loving enough. That is what's out there, and you might have noticed that here at IRBC we've got a different message from that. We could say, yeah, we don't love them enough, but Christ is the way, the truth, and the life. And if we proclaim Christ, it's going to be the way, the truth, and the life, and it's going to be different from what you think is the way. It's going to be different from what you think is the truth, and it's going to be different from what you think is the life. And we think we can love people without proclaiming that. We can't do it. I might have mentioned this before, mentioned it really quickly. Had a discussion with some guys at work, talking about being loving, and trying to make our message attractive. And this one dude had been in church pretty much all his life, best I could tell. I had to tell him, our message is not attractive. Our message is you are in big trouble with the God of the universe who will destroy you, and you have one chance, you must run to Christ. That's it. And they're never going to run to Christ unless they get that. And I am telling this to a guy who's been in church all his life. I'm like, what? And I'm the crazy guy, of course. Because all this time he's been hearing, you know what, just love Jesus and everybody's going to come to be a Christian. I had to point out to him, you know what, no one was more loving than Christ. Get it through our heads. No one was more loving than Christ, and no one was more hated than Christ. Get it through your heads, peeps. Mine too. Yes?
As far as Christ being a conquering king versus a meek and mild king, what would you make of him coming into Jerusalem on a donkey, as opposed to like a white stallion or something?
Right. Here's what I make of that. My understanding, especially with the Jewish people, was that they came in on donkeys to prove they had already conquered. They came in on a horse to conquer, but they came in on donkeys when it was already done. For example, that's why Absalom, remember when he goes to fight David, he had been convinced by poor Hushai the Archite against Ahithophel's counsel to go and kind of proclaim his victory against David. Just take all Israel and we'll go and kick his lights out and you be king. Well, he shows up on a donkey. Why does he show up on a donkey instead of a horse? To proclaim that he's already king and he's already won it. There's another guy that does that too. It's kind of missed. Ahab. Ahab is my most intriguing pagan Israelite king. in that I think if Ahab shows up and runs for president today, most Christians support him. Because he had a great economically he was strong. He had the respect of all his enemies, so he had a good defense. His wife was a pagan Baal worshiper, but who cares, right? And you remember the way his sons rode around? He was Ahab was powerful. Remember the way his sons rode around? They rode around with donkeys. That's the way they did. We're powerful. We don't need a horse. Nobody's protecting us. And I think that's the image that's going on there when he rides into Jerusalem. Yes?
I was thinking about the thing about blaming Pontius Pilate. There's one passage in Acts where it says, 4:27, for a retreat against thy holy child whom thou hast anointed, both Herod and Pontius Pilate with the Gentiles and the people of Israel were gathered together. I think he's presenting that as fulfillment of maybe
Psalm 2. Yeah.
So the Bible does blame Pilate.
Yeah, he certainly was a co-belligerent in that whole thing.
Like,
And as Herod was.
it seems to present him here as not just like not caring, but as rising up against.
Yeah. In that case, and it's talking about Psalm 2 there, and I've actually thought about that, and I think I think you can certainly see it that way. I see it as I see it as fulfilling a different part of Psalm 2, perhaps, meaning Psalm 2 showing that the kings of the earth will cooperate. And I think there, when they pray that prayer, you're in Acts 4, I think, yeah. And it is a definite reference to Psalm 2, because they reference Psalm 2 in the same prayer. So it's definitely connected right there. I think that's more of an example, less of an example of blaming Pilate, and more of an example of the illustration of how the kings of the earth, that's why they mentioned Herod and Pilate, will combine against Christ. I think it's more of that, but you can certainly see it the way you're seeing it as well. Because it's not hard to see that they're naming Pilate as one of the actors in the death of Christ. No doubt about that. Yeah, I hope you get a chance to read Acts 4 is really important, because there are a lot of people that see Christ, they admit that Christ is king on a throne in Psalm 2. Psalm 2, the second most quoted psalm in the New Testament. Okay? But what happens is, Psalm 2 is connected with Acts 4, because most people modern Christians want to take Psalm 2 and put it sometime in the future. Yeah, Jesus is going to be king on the throne sometime in the future, ruling with a rod. That's in Psalm 2, right? In Psalm 110. But you read Acts 4, and they clearly believe that Psalm 2 has been fulfilled. Once again, the Bible interpreting itself. Well, I have time for one last question, I think.
Just a comment.
Okay.
Luke 23 talks about how Herod and Pilate became friends.
Became friends.
You had talked earlier about how if there's one thing that brings kings together, it's Christ.
Yeah. And in Luke 23, that's exactly what happened. Herod and Pilate become buds, hated each other up until that point. When Christ is involved, now we're tight. Thank you for your kind attention here this morning.